If you have questions, concerns, and are just lost when it comes to planning for retirement, meet Steve Hoyle and Derek Caldwell of the Hoyle Financial Group. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is again in milestone territory. It surpassed the 40,000 barrier. And so while this sounds great and clearly it deserves some attention here, what I really want to know, Derek, is what does this mean for someone's 401k?
The first thing is you're going to experience a lot of volatility. So you need to make sure that you're comfortable with your risk level. That's the first thing I would tell everybody is to make sure and see how you're allocated. We help people with that every single day because most people chunk their money into 401k and probably 90% of them don't even know what fund they're in. That's just because there's a lack of education, surrounding 401ks and finances in particular. But those are some of the things we walk through is these funds have fees too that really impact your performance. So you need to know what those are. It's not the administrative fees for your 401k that hits you every quarter. Everybody gets a $25 thing. That's not how these guys make their money. It's all in the funds. 401ks have a really limited selection too. So if you're over 59 and a half, a great time to take control of your assets. Even if your 401k is from an old job and you left that job already, have us take a look at it. Have us take care of that for you because that is something that you need to get educated on to know how you're invested and why. Is it meeting your goals? Because the last thing you want to do is have that market drop out on you because the Dow, it's chugging along over 40,000. I mean, a lot of just resistance, though, they're starting to hit and everything. And you want to be kept in the dark on your finances, but also you want to be holding the bag if something happens. So make sure you know what you're doing.
Well, Derek, it's interesting. People come to see us and say, I should be making so much more money than I am right now. And when we show them those fees to that 401k, 4, 5, 6%, they're like, wow, that's the problem. That's why if you're 59 and a half, like you said, taking control of that is so important. But, Derek, I think what's going to happen is now that the market's crossed the Dow Jones has crossed 40,000. People are just going to be chunking that money in there, and they're going to wake up one day and go, whoops, what happened? All of a sudden, their 401k has a value of a 201k. It's kind of scary.
This is where we always offer a complimentary 401k x-ray. That's a great way for you to walk away with an understanding of exactly what you're in and if it's a good thing or a bad thing for your overall financial health in the future. So I'm going to offer, the first 5 callers, guys, give us a call. This is something we love to do, and it will change your life seeing what makes up your 401k. I promise you.
I feel like we've been having this conversation about rate cuts for months, guys. The Fed's gone from 6 cuts. Now we're down to 2 this year, and some saying none at all. Well, here's analyst Kevin Hassett on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo.
The Fed's not going to be able to cut rates this year, but they're also not high enough. If you look at the inflation data, then the last 3 months are running almost at 5%. And the fact is that the Fed needs to go up from here, not down. And they're kind of in denial about that. The Fed is going to look at the data, and then by June or July, they're going to see they've lost control again.
Don't you think that's going to be a major disappointment for the stock market? Will we see a sell-off in stocks if, in fact, we see a rate hike?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So he's talking about rates going up. I can just tell you, just as a normal everyday person, that makes me nauseous. I don't understand how much more they can go up, how much more we can sacrifice. I mean, guys, what are your thoughts on this?
It's scary. It's 100% scary.
Yeah.
It's moving the wrong way.
Yeah, and first of all, I got to say, Jess, right, Steve? This guy's like, oh, yeah, the market won't like that. And he says it like so nonchalantly. And, it definitely could. Rate hikes are something that we got to keep in perspective. That keep in mind that in the 80s, you're talking about 18, 19% interest rates that they were experiencing there. So this is not unprecedented as far as if they continue to raise interest rates. Honestly, I don't see that. I think maybe if it did go up a little bit, it would go up maybe a ticker or two. But if you look at the overall environment out there, right, you got the banks, annuity companies, and everything. They're a great indicator of what way the wind's blowing. If you look at CD rates right now, 6 months are the top. Right, if you go out to a 2 or 3 year CD, a lot of them are half of what they're offering for 6 months because the banks are protecting themselves. They know in the long term, they don't want to get stuck holding the bag once again. And so annuity companies are doing the same there. So long-term wise, we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Be prepared that your savings accounts and your fixed accounts are going you're going to be in a much tougher environment as it goes on. But the next 6 months, a year, perhaps we could see a little bit of an interest rate increase. I don't see inflation going away either. I really think that we might see either a 0.25% one way or another, but really we're going to be stuck in this environment for the next 6 months, I feel like.
But I have to tell you, we had this election coming up. They're sure not going to raise rates between now and win the election. I think you're safe for that. That's a very much a political hot potato. I mean, I can see the Fed lowering rates a little bit, giving some relief before the election. It's crazy.
Yeah, because I think, I wonder if you guys are hearing this a lot from, folks calling in or even current clients. You talked about inflation and, while there are ways to capitalize on these high interest rates, these interest rates are also really debilitating to a lot of folks that can't keep up with inflation. So they're building up credit card debt, and the credit card debt is 20, 25, 28%. And it's like, you can't even get ahead at paying these things down. And I wonder if you guys are hearing this. Is this a reason why a lot of folks maybe aren't retiring when they could or should, because they're concerned about the $30,000 on American Express?
Absolutely they are. But that's one of the huge cornerstones that we help people with, is getting debt under control and then have an emergency fund so they don't get in that debt problem, Jess. I mean, that's one of the huge things we help people do. Derek, we saw that guy in the oil field, I guess last year, that had 3.75 million, and every month he cleaned out his checking account to zero, he and his wife, and had absolutely zero money outside his retirement plan. And he also had no emergency fund whatsoever. They just kind of went without. But, they had a new Charger. They had a new big Ford pickup. They lived in a double-wide mobile home, and they had a Quonset hut over it. I mean, they had a great life, but they really didn't have any, and they were so stressed. And when Derek helped them take control of their money and sit down and really show them, let's take some of this money, let's create an emergency fund, let's create a cushion. And I think one of the other things that Derek did for one was also to show them, quit going to Costco. You know what? I mean, you can't spend $25,000 a quarter on tools that you don't need and don't have a place for and retire well. I think that's huge, Jess.
Yeah, and I mean, we are definitely seeing a lot of that, Jess. Credit card, the average credit card now, guys, has 28% interest. I mean,
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And so the credit card companies aren't hurting, right? I mean, everybody's doing great on that side. But yeah, the average American, if you have credit card debt, it's very, very tough. On top of that, the vehicles, if you need a new vehicle, on top of that, mortgages.
If you're trying to buy a house, it's impossible.
Well,
yeah,
This is interesting, Derek. I follow this guy that does a lot of financing in Dallas, does a lot of flips with homes, and he said a lot of home buyers holding on to property and not listing, keeping inventory low. He said 88.5 have a mortgage rate below 6%. I mean, that's really being hard on the one thing, you've got all these institutional buyers buying up all the houses, but mom and pop with a little kid are not moving up to a bigger house because they can't afford the interest.
100%.
It's really killed discretionary spending, right?
Yes.
I mean, that new vehicle, well, maybe I'll just wait another year or two. I don't need one. Same thing with a mortgage. Maybe you wanted to upgrade your house or take out a home equity loan or get a new house, that kind of thing. No, sure. I got 2.375, guys. I'm not moving. I don't care. Like, I'm paying them peanuts for that thing. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense when I'd have to flip it and, get another house at 6-7%. Absolutely not.
Exactly.
So, that's in the long term, guys, that's gonna hurt the economy. There's no way around it.
Well, and I do think, the reverse is also true. So whether you have young people or whatnot trying to refi or buy new homes, and you got the other side of the coin where retirees, maybe they're trying to offload their home and downsize. Well, it doesn't necessarily make sense because they can't afford to even downsize by the time you do the interest rates and whatnot. I mean, these are all concerns that are affecting people from 20 years old to 60 years old.
Also, their taxes are locked in. They can't afford to move. Even if they downsize, their property taxes are going to be higher on a smaller house and then that smaller house is going to cost more than the current house they're in. Downsizing doesn't make sense in this economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're seeing a lot is people are keeping cash on the sidelines too, where they're getting 3 or 4% at the bank, and they may be thinking that's going to last for forever. Well, I talked to a gentleman the other day too. His portfolio, he's just kind of feeling really good right now on that. But then I showed him the inflation rate and what his expenses are going to be like. Guys, it ate his portfolio's lunch. I mean, it killed it. And I told him, I said, you can't sit on the sidelines there. You have to do something differently. This is a short-term solution right now with these rates. So you got to have a plan for when they go away. So I'm going to tell you, let's protect your income, right? Let's protect your assets. Give us a call. Let's do a complimentary income plan for you. Let's see exactly where your income is going to come from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now. Let's vet either way. If interest rates go up, down, whatever, we have a plan of action in place for you to take advantage of that.
If you're a serious baseball fan, then you know the name of Angel Hernandez. He is known as the worst umpire in the major leagues. He's been accused of blowing too many calls outside the strike zone. He's officially retired, but it got me thinking here about some of the strike zones that retirees need to prepare for now so they don't make a wrong call later. What are your thoughts on this, guys?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I don't know if y'all know this. I know a couple umpires, like in real life. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
they're little league umpires, but they are they are better than he is. This guy was atrocious, by the way. I mean, I grew up loving baseball, so this guy was like the mortal enemy of pretty much. It's the one thing baseball fans were united on was this guy.
Wow.
But yeah,
He got a lot of attention, though, Derek.
He did, yeah. He was on ESPN more than any umpire in the history of umpires, I'm
He
sure.
was half the entertainment of the game, yeah.
Yeah. So, so when we think about, Steve, some of these pitfalls, like one thing I hear all the time is avoiding the stock market altogether. Right. I mean, that's something we have because we live in Texas, right? I mean, notoriously conservative state. And sometimes people can go way too far, right, with their money where it's, it's just CDs and the bank. That's it. Yeah. And inflation will kill you. You're missing out on so many gains. And just that to me, a lot of times, don't you agree, Steve? It's kind of like they're not diversified, so they protect themselves by shoving it in the bank.
Exactly. But Derek, two things come to mind here. One is the rule of 100, which basically says take 100 minus your age, and that's the most that you should have in the market, even if you're a really high risk person, not a low risk person. So say 60 years old, subtract that from 100. You should have no more than 40% of your money in the market. And what I find so often, Derek, people come to see us and they have 98.6% of all their money in the market, 401k, their savings, everything, or they have zero. There has to be a happy medium. I think that's a huge thing.
There's so many, right? I mean, Steve, there's like great fixed index annuities out there. There's great just fixed annuities. I mean, there's a lot of different things other than what your bank provides to you. And you need to get educated on that. Call us on that. That's something we do every single day and kind of work through this because we want to match your tolerance level for risk and everything, but we also want to show you what's out there, show you what you can take advantage of.
But absolutely, Derek, we have strategies that are tied to the upside of the Standard & Poor's, some of them all the way to 15%. They don't have a fee. So if the S&P returns 17%, you only get 15. If it returns the next year 9%, you get 9. But when 2 years ago, when it returned right under negative 20%, when it was negative 19.85%, all of a sudden, zero becomes your hero and you didn't lose anything. So there's ways to be in the stock market and still protect your risk, which I think is so important.
Derek, I mean, it kind of lets them take their risk level into account and say, hey, what am I comfortable with here? Right. And, evaluate it that way.
But knowledge is power. And when you really know, sit down with somebody like Derek or myself, and we show you options. Options is what people want in retirement. Also, Derek, people come to see us, and I claim my Social Security at 62 because I thought I was supposed to. Oh, wait, you're still working. Now you're paying 2/3 of it back to the government. Oh my gosh, now the roll-up has stopped. You know what? With inflation the way it is now, you need time on your side with Social Security, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another big one, Steve. Claiming it too early and everything. And a lot of people, too, I see when we sit down with them, they're claiming it because, they really feel like they don't have a choice. It's like, hey, you start getting those letters. Hey, I'm 62. I could wait, but I might die, too, at 66 or so. So they feel kind of pressured into that a lot of times. And that's understandable, right? I want to get as much Social Security as I can, too. But on the flip side of that, I got to make sure my wife is taken care of. That big roll-up and the ability to take half of your spouse's is a big deal, too. All that kind of goes into it. It's not a simple cookie-cutter, question and answer there. Another one we see a lot, Steve, is the long-term care solutions, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people ignore those so much, and they'll say, well, if it does happen, I'll pay for it. And I tell them, hey, okay, so you have $350K just sitting around,
just
ready to
laying
go?
around? Yeah.
Yeah. And some people do, which is great to have that. But if you don't have that, you need to make a plan just in case that situation does occur.
Sure. I think the other one, Derek, that really comes to mind for me is people don't have an emergency fund for health care. They think that Medicare is going to pay everything between that and their supplement. And all of a sudden, one of them needs something that's not approved for Medicare, maybe for cancer, or, it's a non-FDA approved treatment. It'll save your life, but you've got to have the money to do it. I've seen a lot of statistics that couples need $200,000 to $250,000 out of pocket to protect themselves for health care during their lifetime. I mean, it's a huge number, but having that and covering all the bases is really, really important.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Steve, my father-in-law, and he's not, what I would consider old, in the sense that he's 73 years old, guys.
No, he's not old.
Yeah, well, no, he isn't. And he has one medicine, guys, out of pocket after Medicare, and he even has a supplemental plan. It costs him $637 a month.
Whoa.
Yeah, luckily he has assets and he's planned for that and everything. But to a lot of, you tell me right now that I got to pay $637 for medicine, I'm freaking out a little bit. It's just, that's a lot of money. Just for one medicine. So, he says it all nonchalant and, hey, that's how much it is kind of thing. But if you don't have those assets and your portfolio can't handle that, I don't even know what you do. Like, do you not take the medicine? That's not a really realistic expectation either. I don't know.
The big one that gets me is people that don't do estate planning. We'll see people come to see us, especially like second marriages, and they're like, well, she wants it this way and I want it this way. So you know what? We've just decided to let our kids fight it out. The toughest one will win. And it's just crazy people, and also people that don't have a power of attorney, one for health or one for wealth. All of a sudden they go to the hospital, and who's to make that decision? And then, who's going to pay your bills while you're sick? I think it's so important to dot the I's and cross the T's and really have a strong estate plan. You work all those years, accumulate all that money, and you won't spend 3 hours and a couple $100 to have a strong estate plan. It just doesn't make sense, Derek Caldwell.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And these are the things that, we call them the pitfalls of retirement. Preparing for the unknowns in retirement is key.
If you'd like to sit down with Steve and Derek or a member of the Hoyle Financial Group, visit retiretexasstyle.com.
By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Steve Hoyle, Texas Insurance License 716036. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Steve Hoyle is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Steve Hoyle is licensed in your state, please call 806-371-9473.